Well, good morning, everyone. It's really nice to see all of you again today, and thank you for joining us for today's Tanjo-e service, and and thank you for inviting me to speak today. And of course, congrats to all the Hatsumairi families. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the trip that actually Rinbai Ito already mentioned, the trip that some of you recently took to Japan to celebrate Shinran Shonen's 850th birthday and the 800th anniversary of the establishment of our Shin Buddhist tradition. Sadly, I wasn't able to attend, but I have participated in services at the Honzan in Kyoto many times before, and also I have visited many of Shinran's historic sites. And so I hope that, like me, you found the trip not only very informative, but hopefully also inspiring. And now, regarding this anniversary of the establishment of our Shin tradition, so it was 800 years ago when Shinran, at the age of about 50, completed his major work, the Kyogyo Shinsho. This is the revered volume on the teaching, practice, faith, and realization, which is considered to have established our Shin tradition. So therefore, this is a special anniversary because while Shinran, of course, passed away back in the 13th century, this year's celebratory services at the Honzan in Japan, and also our Tanjo-e service today, I think show that we are still listening to the tradition he established. Of course, unlike most founders of traditions, Shinran was very humble, and he never claimed to have created a new teaching. He always spoke of himself as a student of his teacher Honen, the founder of the Jodo Shu, or Pure Land tradition. But in several key ways, Shinran's interpretations of the Pure Land teachings were quite unique and highly influential. And this is why Shinran is considered to be the founder, if you will, of the tradition known as Jodo Shinshu, or true Pure Land tradition. And so what I'd like to highlight today is what I consider the most significant aspect of Shinran's legacy. I think this is an aspect or a distinctive characteristic that goes beyond his actual words and beyond the various doctrines that are often cited as his teachings. I think this aspect, or maybe a better word is hallmark, this hallmark of Shinran is his embodying the deep meaning contained in the phrase Namu Amida Butsu. Now, this key aspect of Shinran, which I think we could also call Shinran's spirit or Shinran's message, is actually something that is present, if we dig a little deeper, in various elements of this morning's service. So for example, in the Hatsumairi service that preceded the Tanjo-e, we chanted the Tanbutsuge Sutra, right? And as you may know, I think the Tanbutsuge is a verse that occurs within the Larger Sutra. The Larger Sutra is the sutra or sermon of the Buddha that tells the story of the seeker Dharmakara, who becomes Amida Buddha. Amida Buddha, of course, is the Buddha on our altar. But the Tanbutsuge itself is a very important passage in the Larger Sutra. Essentially, it's describing how Buddhas become Buddhas. In the Larger Sutra, Dharmakara encounters a great Buddha named Lokeshvara Raja, and because of this meeting with a Buddha, Dharmakara is inspired to become a Buddha himself. This is described in the Tanbutsuge's opening lines, which I think many of you know as Kogen Gi Ijin Mu Goku Nyoze en Myo Muyo Tosha. In these lines, we witness Dharmakara being overwhelmed by the presence of the Buddha Lokeshvara Raja and spontaneously expressing his praise of the Buddha. The English translation of this passage is, "The shining face of the Buddha is glorious. Boundless is his magnificence. The radiant splendor of the Buddha is beyond comparison." Because of his encounter with a Buddha, an awakened being, Dharmakara's own aspiration for Buddhahood is awakened and becomes so strong that he vows to not attain it unless all beings everywhere also attain Buddhahood. Later in the Larger Sutra, he embarks on an inspired visitation practice where he goes out and humbly bows to and studies from all Buddhas everywhere. And so here, bowing doesn't literally refer to physically bowing. Rather, it refers to the attitude of deeply appreciating and listening to all his teachers. Ultimately, he fulfills his vows, becomes Amida Buddha, and establishes the Pure Land, the realm of nirvana. Once Dharmakara's strong aspiration was awakened, isn't it as though his eventual attainment of Buddhahood had already been assured? For this reason, the Tanbutsuge passage was very meaningful to Shinran. I think he saw it as describing his meeting with his own teacher, Honen. And so in this sense, there's a powerful mutuality that occurs between teacher and student. It's not simply one praising and bowing to the other, but both mutually praising and bowing to each other. So I think this humble bowing, studying, and listening attitude is at the heart of Shinran's message. As I mentioned, Dharmakara ultimately fulfills his vows and becomes known as Amida Buddha, but Shinran has pointed out that Amida's full name is actually Namu Amida Butsu. This is because the word Namu refers to the same humble process Dharmakara engaged in. In other words, bowing. So Amida's full name can be translated as bowing Amida Buddha. Therefore, the bowing in the Buddha's name indicates that Dharmakara has become a Buddha because of his bowing. Let me also highlight another element of this morning's service in which I think we can find what I've referred to as Shinran's spirit or Shinran's message. His deep appreciation of bowing and listening. And this is an element that was present in the Hatsumairi service itself. I think as Rinpoche mentioned, Hatsumairi, Hatsu means first, and Mairi or Mairi means temple visit. So first temple visit, and it's an opportunity for parents to bring children to the temple for the first time. And as Rinpoche mentioned, it's like a ceremony welcoming children into the temple and into the Buddhist tradition. So in this sense, it's an occasion for the parents to present their child to the Buddha formally for the first time, so the child can receive the blessings of the Buddha. But also, I think in this sense, there's another way that Hatsumairi is sometimes translated as infant presentation service. So it's a time when the parents formally present their child to the Buddha so that they can receive these blessings of the Buddha. So what are these blessings of the Buddha? Well, in the presentation of the child to the Buddha, I think what's most significant is the act of oshoko, which I think, as you know, means offering incense, putting our hands together in the ojuzu or nenju, bowing, and reciting Namu Amida Butsu. And so what is significant here, of course, is the deep meaning in the phrase Namu Amida Butsu that I've been discussing. But I think another point is that we always carry the nenju in the left hand because not only do the beads of the nenju each represent our various ego-related problems, like, let's see, I'll start from the bottom here. Let's see, well, greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, impatience, being judgmental. I could go on, but I think I'll stop there. Because of this and the fact that we hold the Nenju or Juzu in the left hand traditionally represents the world of samsara, suffering and difficulty, of us being upset with things not going the way we want them to. But then the right hand represents the Pure Land, the world of nirvana. And so in joining our hands together inside the Nenju and reflecting on these profound truths, in reciting Namu Amida Butsu, and in sincerely bowing, we transcend the world of samsara, and then the world of nirvana, the world of oneness, opens up to us. Now, as you witnessed in the Hatsumairi ceremony, mom or dad usually has to, dako the child and actually offer incense and bow for them. But of course, symbolically, it's the child that's bowing to the Buddha. And since this bowing to the Buddha signifies they're taking refuge, for the first time, this bowing represents their beginning on the path of the Buddhist seeker. Here you might recognize again the significance of bowing, because this parallels the example in the Tanbutsuge of the seeker Dharmakara encountering a great Buddha and being inspired to attain Buddhahood through a humble bowing and listening practice. And then I think, as Rinban mentioned, the certificate that each child receives commemorates this auspicious occasion. And the Nenju gift represents the hope of our temple and Shinran Shonin, that your child be guided by the wisdom of the Buddha throughout their entire life. There's one other aspect of the Hatsumairi that I'd like to highlight. I think this aspect helps us to know Amida the way Shinran knew Amida. And so, first of all, I think we know that Amida Buddha, the Buddha here on our altar, is not a historical Buddha like Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni, of course, lived 2,500 years ago in India, but rather, as Shinran himself has clarified, Amida is a symbol of the ultimate truth and reality of all life. Amida represents the powerful and dynamic truth, the Dharma, that's actually responsible for the creation of all Buddhas. Do you remember in the Tanbutsuge the description of the shining face and radiant splendor of the Buddha? This image of light is a poetic representation of that ultimate truth and reality, the dynamic power of the Dharma. And this power is, of course, the undeniable truth of the impermanence of all things, the reality of constant change and flow of everything. And it's said that a Buddha awakens to this truth on the deepest level and realizes it's not just them that is constantly changing. All life is constantly changing and flowing, and all life and my own life is interconnected and interdependent. Moreover, impermanence not only refers to constant change, it also means constant creativity and constant freshness. And so I'd like to ask you, don't you think that a child represents this truth of impermanence and interconnectedness, this freshness and preciousness of life? And so, while we, of course, bow to Amida, and therefore all Buddhas, all awakened beings, are also bowing to the child as a symbol of this freshness, this preciousness, this creativity of life, this truth of impermanence. And so should we. So on this occasion of Tanjo-e, I just wanted to share with you what I consider to be Shinran's greatest gift to us, which is this bowing and listening spirit itself, the spirit of Namu Amida Butsu. Thank you very much for listening. Namu Amida.